So now we've talked about the industry protocol on submissions. Let's move on to what to expect when working with an attorney. So say someone calls and makes an inquiry. They know that they need to be protected. Maybe they need to have their entity set up, or maybe they're already there. But what can they expect in moving forward?
Well, I mean, it really, at that point, kind of depends on the personality of who you're dealing with. I mean, I can speak to how we deal with clients. I mean, we're very hands-on, and we're very we like to be involved in every aspect of the client. Some of those larger firms, they like to just kind of use new attorneys to they'll pull people in with the partners, but then they'll shoot them off on the new attorneys. So it really depends a lot on how you select your law firm. But if someone calls us at Metal, we usually want to get a little idea of what they want to do, kind of understand the project, and kind of see where they're going before we kind of feel like before we structure anything. And if they're ready, then a lot of times we may suggest that they come in for a consultation. Now, what we've done to do our weed out is kind of we do charge for that consultation, but if that consultation turns into a paying client, then we will apply that consultation fee to their retainer, so they'll get a credit for whatever they had paid before. And that's just something you have to do because there's so many people who aren't serious about their legal advice. So after that, if they take us on as a client, then we advise them on the best way to get to where they want to get to, and if they need a better plan as far as maybe they can't afford to do everything at once, then we kind of come up with priorities to kind of help them understand what needs to be done first, what needs to be done in a month from now, and what's the best strategy that we can come up with given the constraints of their budget.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. All right, so now we know what to expect moving forward with Metal. So let's talk about the rules of engagement. And I think, let me just jump forward a little bit here. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the rules of engagement because, let's just be real about it. And you mentioned how, some of the other law firms may be. How do you determine whether a project is really a right match or when it's just not going to work? Can you talk to some of the ways to, for prospective clients to evaluate whether a law firm is a right match and vice versa? When you may have someone come in that's just not going to be a good fit, how do you navigate that?
Well, it's usually based on personality, as I've kind of found out, because if you kind of need to get along with your attorney because you're going to be spending a lot of time talking to them and doing things with them. So it does come down to just kind of human nature. If you have the first meeting and it's just not feeling right, then we usually don't want you as a client, or maybe you don't want us as a client. It just doesn't make sense to force a relationship. That's kind of how I feel, because you're actually learning intimate details about this person. So if they're not comfortable to work with, then it's just not going to work. But some people like that, and it's all in preference. Some people really want to have a law firm that's just very rigid and has the huge name, so they can say that they're associated with a certain law firm, and that's fine. I think our niche is kind of the entrepreneurial type companies that people they're going to want to be interacting with their attorney often. So that's kind of what they're looking for. And that's kind of what we attract. There've been many times when I've been in meetings and I just knew it wasn't going to work, and I'll just tell them it's probably not a good fit.
Okay, well that's a perfect segue into when to walk away. So let's just touch on. You don't have to give away anybody, obviously, but what are some things that would make you as a firm say, this probably is not going to work?
It's usually always based on unrealistic expectations. I mean, that's really the name of the game. If somebody comes in here with a project that's barely developed, yet they expect the world, they want to be on MTV tomorrow, then that's not the kind of project we're going to want to deal with. Because one thing we kind of like to stress is we kind of keep the expectations lower than what we can deliver, because we don't want people to be disappointed. That's just a better way to work, as opposed to the opposite way. So I think if someone came to us with extremely high expectations, but not the credibility to back up what they want, then I think that would be a bad fit.
Okay.
And I'm sure you can relate.
But I understand. I really, really understand that. So then on the other side, this happens too, and I've heard some stories, especially recently. But what would be some warning signs for clients who maybe aren't in a good relationship with an attorney? And I mean, let's just be real. Mm-hmm. Nobody's perfect, and within every industry there's, the bad apples. So what are some indications that your attorney is a bad apple? Like, you might have a suspicion, but if you don't really know what to expect, then it might be hard to really make a decision. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, two things come to mind. I mean, the first thing is maybe not the bad apple being the attorney, but it's the firm. And it's kind of like I said, it's kind of a bait and switch type of situation. And I see this all the time with the large firms, because they'll pull in these clients and they'll treat them like kings and queens when they're in the intake meeting, and then later on they'll stick an associate on that account, and you'll never talk to the person who took you in. So when you're dealing with a younger attorney, though, of course, they're not going to give you the kind of service that someone older is going to give you, and that's just or more experienced is going to give you, and that's it's really sad to see, but I see it all the time. As far as bad apples, dealt with those too. A sign is when the attorney is not willing to put as much as he can in writing, be that email or letters, as far as what he's trying to do for you. Those attorneys you can't get to return your email, or you can't get on the, you can't get them to document what they're going to do. That's and they don't end up not doing a few things, and then that's kind of a bad sign. And with attorneys in California, you can fire them at any time, because we're not bound by contracts. We're above contracts because we negotiate contracts. So if you're having a bad feeling, then you probably should go with your gut and just find someone else.
So to reiterate there, if there's a problem with communication, documentation, or them putting effort into the project.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, how do you know someone's doing something if they don't give you status reports and kind of stay in touch with you?
Right, exactly. Okay, so now we know what a bad apple looks like. Okay, so let's talk about some of the intangible benefits of using an attorney.